Recording in progress.
All right, so welcome back to Think Differently. Good to see everybody here. Last week we talked about networking. This week we're talking about networking. I may continue to talk about networking. It's one of my primary strategies. It's not the only thing that my clients use, so I just want to be really, really clear right up front. As a business and mindset coach and somebody who has one of the reasons that I've chosen to work only one-on-one with my clients. I know a lot of coaches love the group programs, but over the years I've just stayed focused on one-on-one because it's more fun for me personally. It's just how I like to work. But it's just the easiest and best and most potent and powerful way for me to help my clients get results is to just sit down one-on-one and apply this directly to their businesses. And so I'm very, very big. One of my biggest values is finding a way to run your business in the way that makes the most sense for you, for the season of life and business that you're in, for your business, for your audience. And so please, 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 even though I am big on networking for myself and I host a networking event, and we're talking about networking today, I just want to quickly say, this is not the only way. I am not a cookie cutter, one size fits all. I don't have that perspective from a business, around business or life. And so if this is something that you are thinking about taking up to the next level, if you're thinking about how to just make it work better for you, or if you're even just considering whether or not to use it at all, this should serve you no matter what. And frankly, if you don't use networking as a strategy in your business, you probably will also get some really good nuggets today because there's so much about what we're talking about that's just business fundamentals, kind of bringing it back to how to think about business and then how to take these concepts and apply them to your business. So you can probably take some of these concepts and apply them to another strategy because marketing is marketing and business is business, right? So today's topic is about using networking as a strategy so that you can create more clients, more referrals, and more raving fans. I find that people tell me all the time, I've been hosting a networking event now for exactly 2 years this week. And I've really been networking pretty hardcore for 7 years, almost 7.5 years that I've been in business now. And then I used it before in my corporate career. But I find that what we're going to be talking about today is really, really gleaned from the last 7.5 years. In my business, I've done the in-person thing, driving around town. I've obviously held my own events and then everything in between. I've been to a million different kinds of networking events. I have burned myself out. I have watched clients tell me I can't do it again, I can't. And I have also found my own way, obviously. Networking is one of my number one primary strategies. And every year when I do look at my data and I look at where all of my clients came from that year, and really I do that a few times a year, every time I look back at my data, the number one driver for clients for me is still networking and referrals from word of mouth. So it works. It has gotten me through 7.5 years. It will probably get me through a much longer period of time. And it is a long game, just like, frankly, most strategies. So what we're going to talk about today is really how to make it work as a strategy for you. I think when you get burned out and drained, last week's conversation was a little more mindset focused. Today's going to be a little more strategy, but I always approach every topic from the perspective of both the mindset and the strategy. So you're going to get a little bit of both here. But last week we talked about how to not get friend zoned and how to not get drained, right? So we talked a lot about mindset. We talked a lot about boundaries. We talked a little bit about strategy. So if any of that sounds like a problem that you're having, if you're feeling like you've been drained or you just want to find a way to make it work efficiently and effectively for you, last week's recording will serve you as well, and I'll send that out in an email. Probably next week. I'll send these two out together actually to everybody who signed up. And last week we also quickly talked about overgiving, right? So that's also one way that we get friend zoned. What's one way that we get drained, right? So if that sounds familiar to you, last week's conversation will be really helpful. And there's a little overlap today, but today we're talking a lot more about the strategic approaches to using networking. And I want to start by just saying, like, every strategy works if you work it and if you align it to your business appropriately and effectively. And so I think if you hear nothing else, like the next time that you hear somebody spout out this advice about like only this strategy works, or only this strategy works for these businesses, or this strategy doesn't work because, like, I'm sorry, like, they're just full of shit, and they probably believe what they're saying, and I'm not trying to throw shade, but every strategy that I know works, even the like underhanded, unethical ones, they work. And so I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole there, but I think it's really just important from a mindset perspective, and frankly from a strategy, like, go take a business 101 class. Like, these are business is about, cultivating relationships. Marketing is how businesses, and sales is how businesses thrive and evolve, right? These are just very, very simple truths. And so if you're feeling like networking's not working for you, I'm hopeful that today will help you not only shift that mindset, but also give you some evidence around it, but then give you something to like tangibly grab onto and execute in your business. Because I think if it's not working for you, and let me say it this way, if you feel like it's not working for you, it's probably not working for you, right? But it's not because it's not networking's fault, right? Not to say it's your fault, but it's about finding that sweet spot, right? Between the way to get it done, the way to execute, the places to go, and how that aligns or works or doesn't work for you, your personality type, and your business and what it needs right now. So looking for that alignment, looking for that match, just like you want to look for a match when you're, for those of you who are service providers, like, you want to have a match between you and your client, right? You want that right fit client. You don't just want anybody who's willing to buy your services. And so same with business, same with strategies, same with networking. Okay. And as we're going, those of you who are live, let me know, like, what's the most annoying part of your networking efforts? Bring it. Let's solve as many problems as we can. What's working, what's not? Why are you here? What are your thoughts around this? Please feel free to share anything unique to you so that we can really talk about that too. And you will be paying it forward to everybody watching the replay, because if something is a challenge for you, if something is annoying for you, if something is working for you, it will serve other people who are probably having the exact same situation. So a couple of things. This is not an all-inclusive list, but just really quickly right off the bat, if you're feeling like networking isn't working for you, or let's even just say it this way, if it's not working as well as it could be, right? This is about taking it to the next level, no matter what's working for you, whether you're using it, whether it's working well, or whether it's just like, it's working well, but could it be better? It may come down to one of these four things, right? This is not an all-inclusive list, but I think these are some of the ones that I see more often than anything else. Number one, from a 1 and 2 are more kind of strategic. Number one is you're not doing it with intention. Another way to say that, and again, let's get back to like, how do we just make this better? We could be more intentional, right? You could be more strategic in your approach, right? Versus just running out and going to every event, running around, and I say running because I feel like that's what I did for my first 2 years in business. I was living in San Francisco. This was pre-pandemic, and I was literally like running, walking, and driving around town, going to all the events that I could. I learned like full on trial by fire, kind of throw yourself in the deep end. Like, well, I like did speaking events 2-3 months into my business. Like, I really just threw myself in, exhausted myself, drained myself, but I learned a ton. And I very quickly got to a point of like, okay, this is going to work and this is not. So this is how we're going to do it. So I figured that piece out every year. I kind of got a little bit better at that and a little bit more aligned to the way that it works for me. And so again, if you are kind of like I was in the beginning, I think there's a time and a place for just like running at stuff, but like then we want to stop and be strategic. I don't actually think that that's a terrible way to go about things, but we do want to be intentional. We do want to be strategic. And so if you're feeling like it's not working or it's not working as well as it could be, it's probably because you could add a little more intention, a little more strategic approach. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. Also, number 2, from a strategy perspective, you might be doing it really intentionally and really strategically, but you still kind of maybe find yourself in the wrong rooms or talking to the wrong people. And by wrong, this is not a judgment on the quality of the people or anything like that. It's about, are you in rooms where either your ideal clients are or where people who know your ideal clients are? So it doesn't matter if you're like the best networker in the world, if you're spending your time networking with people who will never be your ideal clients and will never be able to refer business to you. There are still some reasons why you might do that. Colleagueship and creating collaborations are 2 really, really, really important things that you can get out of networking, even if you are in rooms with people that are not your ideal client. And so I don't want to say that it needs to be like so direct one-to-one. But you still need to be in the right rooms to be with the people that you want to collaborate with, right? So really, really thinking about that. Am I in the right rooms? And then once I'm given the opportunity to be in that room, am I directly talking one-on-one or one-to-many or, in small breakout rooms, or as you decide who you're going to have a coffee chat with, are you making good decisions? Are you making strategic decisions around how you continue to deepen those relationships? So are you deepening relationships with the right people? So being more strategic, being in the right rooms with the right people, and then not having, a lot of times it's because we don't have systems, we don't have an approach. This kind of gets back like up to that strategic intention piece, but like very practical execution, right? I have my networking notebook right here. When I inevitably put a note that I'm meeting someone and I'm like, oh shoot, my networking notebook is over there. I don't want to get up or go to the closet. Like, I'll just jot it down here. Yeah, I never follow up. I never follow up. I just know myself. I have a system, and when I don't follow my system, I forget shit. Right? So having a system, having boundaries, having execution of your networking strategy that's inefficient or efficient. And then finally, mindset, if we're approaching it from the perspective of trying to make friends. And I have made so many friends in the last 7.5 years networking. I'm going to be really, really, really clear. Like, this isn't a conflict between the two. It's not either or. But if your approach is to go make friends, it's going to be really hard to generate clients. So if your approach and your intention and your mindset is around, I'm here to grow my business, I'm here to represent as a business owner, I'm here to support my business, then you will inevitably make friends in the process, but your driver and your goal will get you there. And again, it's not either or. Relationships are relationships, but when we approach something not thinking about ourselves, when we are not in the CEO role, let's just use that like mindset identity perspective. When we're not in the CEO role, when we are out and about selling our wares to the world, we're missing the boat, and we're frankly not doing a service. We're doing a disservice to our business. Okay, I'm going to check the chat here, and then we're going to talk about, so what do we do? But let me just quickly recap. A lot of times, the source of your problem, right? Just to like be really annoying about it. A lot of times the source of the problem is you're not being strategic or strategic enough, intentional or intentional enough. You're not in the right rooms with the right people. You don't have systems or boundaries to keep you sane and not drain you and not burn you out. And again, you can see how these go together, right? If you're not in the right room, it's really inefficient, right? And then a mindset perspective, right? If we're approaching it from the perspective of making friends, it just gets really more confusing. And again, we can have both. But if we're only approaching it from the friend standpoint, I see, and we talked about that a lot last week, I see that that's what drains a lot of people. Okay, let me check the chat, and then we will dive into the next piece here. Okay, I'm figuring out how to do the follow-up, yes, in a way that's doable for me. I have great one-on-one meetings with aligned folks in various industries, but but the energy and connection fall off after that. I'm working on figuring out an ongoing nurturing strategy that isn't overwhelming. Okay, I love that. We are going to talk about that, and I will make sure that we do that a little bit more than I had planned. Follow-ups. Okay. And then yes, the follow-up is a challenge for me too. Okay, so we have 2 follow-up requests. That's awesome. I've definitely struggled to find the right rooms, 100%. I think if I just very generally, like if I get a little, if I overgeneralize about my experience in the last 7.5 years, I have been in a lot of different rooms. And what I mean by that is, yeah, I've tried a bunch of events and I've tried a bunch of groups, but I've also been a regular at a lot of different groups and events. And a lot of those, as they change and evolve, or as I change and evolve, some of the things that were a great fit for me right off the bat in my first 1 to 3 years did not serve me, or stopped serving me as well after that. And then I needed to go find different rooms. And so just a reminder, just like ideal clients, just like friendships, just like romantic relationships, if you're not married for 50 years, we do grow and evolve over time, and those, not everybody's meant to be with us all the time. And so some groups will serve you in different seasons and not in others, and just letting that be normal and okay. And we can talk a little bit more about finding the right rooms. Making friends, not referrals, is common for me too. Yeah, totally. Okay, so last week's event will be really good for you. But also, I think oops, I just made the chat very large and I couldn't see you guys. I also think the piece about the friendship piece, it's really also just a mindset thing. So where it's more comfortable, right? Where is it in your mindset that has you leaning over to that version or extreme so much that you then discount your business and you only talk, friend shop or whatever, right? What is it that makes you lean there, right? It's, for most people, it's just a lot more comfortable, right? A lot of people, a lot of women, a lot of small business owners, did not grow up in their career doing sales and marketing. And then especially if you're a personal brand, it's even more personal feeling. I just had breakfast with a friend today who's going to be an author in 5 minutes. And she was like, I got to get perspective around, I'm I'm selling myself, right? And you're selling your service, but being a personal brand is in another layer of vulnerability. And so all that is to say, 1, it takes practice, it takes intentionality, it takes repetition, but 2, looking at in your mindset, what's the piece that leans you in that direction that makes it more comfortable, right? It may be that you don't have a lot of enjoyment around the sales and marketing process. That can be learned and practiced, and you can feel better and more confident around that. It's also just sometimes awkward, right? And so we just lean into the kinds of conversations that are simpler and easier. And frankly, that does create connection. For those of you who've been to my networking events, I'm very big on getting to know the person and the business, right? So this isn't about either or, but we are there from a business perspective and there to support one another as business owners. And that alone, that tiny, it's kind of a micro shift in approach or perspective, but that's where I just see the mindset piece really playing out for a lot of people. So again, I encourage you to dive into what's the mindset stuff that's kind of keeping you in that space or leaning you in that direction, and you'll probably find a good nugget or two to really work on and practice. Because just telling you to do it is yes, we can have awareness, right? So reminding yourself, oh yeah, I'm gonna literally put on my CEO hat before I hit join the Zoom call, right? Some of it can just be that simply intentional. Put a sticky note on I have a sticky note on my computer right here, to remind me of things that I just want to keep my mindset around. So it can just be that simple, and find out where that resistance is and do a little inner work on that as well. Okay. Did I get all the chat questions? Yes. Okay. So we're going to definitely talk about follow-ups. Okay. All right. So what I want to start with, and this is also kind of business basics, but I want to just bring everything back because I think when we are looking at our business, it's really, really important. This is something that I go to my coach for on a regular basis. This is something that I support my clients with all the time, which is we always just, I think, need to keep coming back to like, what's the main point? What's our strategic priority? What are we here to do right now, right? Like we oftentimes just get so pulled or called in multiple directions in our businesses that like, let's come back to what's the priority. Let's come back to what we're here to do. Let me just keep coming back to the basics. And so number one is very simple, but in its execution, it's everything from a strategy perspective in business. And that is understanding what your business needs from you right now. Another way to say that is, what are your strategic priorities? And usually I try to make you pick one or force rank them. If you have 2 or 3 priorities, fine, but force rank them so that you have a top priority in your business at any given time. A lot of people change. I generally update that about quarterly, sometimes every 6 months, depending on whatever's going on in my business. But having that true north, just like having a clear vision for your business, right? One layer down. If you have a clear vision for your business, great. After that, you want to have a clear vision for your overall strategy. What are you trying to accomplish, right? I'm trying to create relationships with people so that they get to know, like, and trust me. So trust in particular as a one-on-one coach, so that when or if they're looking for a business coach, they see me as one of their possibilities and they feel that they already have a trusting relationship with me so that we can have a conversation. And then I have one-on-one calls that support people in going through that process, right? Like, just to be way overly simple about it. So knowing your true north from a vision standpoint in your business, right? Then that should drive your true north in your strategy in terms of how you're going out to market. What's your priority right now? And so back to the season in business and what your business needs and your priority right now, which is, if we don't know that in our business, then we will always ever be executing more than we need to, and or executing more than we need to generate the results that we're looking for. So this is about being really, really efficient, yes, but I don't mean efficient in your systems and processes right now. That's also important, but I mean efficient in your strategy, right? So that your efforts go really directly as close as possible to creating results, both results now and results later. And so I'm gonna share a couple of examples. I think it's just really hard to get your mind wrapped around this if it's not clear. So like, for example, if you're getting ready to have a baby, right? Like your priority right now is probably not about selling spots for when you're on maternity leave, right? Like, I'm being really silly about this, but like, obviously your focus is going to be serving current clients, maybe checking in to see if they want to renew now so that when you're gone, they know that they can come back. You know that they're coming back. You have some sort of plan, and then planning out your maternity leave, right? So like, running around and getting a bunch of new clients right now is probably not the number one priority for you if that's the season of business that you're in. And knowing that is really important, because then your networking strategy aligns up to that, right? I'll give you 2 more examples. I have a client. I made a couple of notes because I don't want to forget. We've been working together for many years, and she has been primarily a one-on-one. She's in the personal development space. Let's just call her a coach for a second, even though she's not. She's been primarily serving people one-on-one. She last year moved into doing, yes, one-on-ones, but now she has a few group programs. And so last year, the focus was about filling those group programs with the people already in her audience. She has a huge, moderately sized audience, but very warm and they just adore her. She's been in business for a long time. And so this opportunity to go into a group program was really just kind of like low-hanging fruit sitting there for her to catch. And so last year, her focus was around developing those programs, marketing those programs, talking about those programs, delivering those programs, seeing how they felt, seeing how people responded to them, and then adjusting them for this year. Okay, so that was the focus last year. From a marketing standpoint this year, she has already, so the focus last year was so much around nurturing and converting her existing audience. A lot less of our focus. She was generating new traffic and expanding her reach, but that was just not the number one priority. We put a lot more time and energy on just pulling people off the fence, right? Or off the fence, plucking the ripe hanging fruit, right? Nurture and conversion. Now that we've done that for a year, that was the right choice. But if we go too long there, can you see what's going to happen? She's going to use up her audience, right? If we don't keep growing her audience, especially for a group model, if we don't keep growing her audience at a remotely appropriate pace, we are going to burn through the audience, right? Because not everybody in your audience is going to buy the thing. And so what we're doing now is, especially because she's basically just refining and tweaking her marketing for these same programs that she's delivering this year. I think she's doing either one new program, but it's kind of like she's pulled it from others. So it's like one new-ish thing, but mostly it's just repeat with some refinements around marketing and refinements around the delivery. So she has the time, right? And she knows the work. So now, again, a lot of those marketing refinements are about, we already delivered the program. We know what's good about it. And some of the surprising results we didn't know were going to come, great, we're sticking that in this year's marketing. So she's just much more dialed in. But now we're focusing a lot more on reach and traffic so that her audience grows before we start selling this next round of coaching, of group programs. So from a networking perspective, can you see how her going to using other people's audiences, speaking in, from a networking perspective, I'm getting in other distractions. Can you see how going to new audiences and expanding her reach there, right? She's doing it on social media too, but expanding your reach and meeting a wider group of people is really going to serve her business right now. And so she will probably also include some one-on-one coffee chats, but like it's going to be more casting a wide net and bringing people into her world. Versus like the deeper level of nurturing relationships and converting, right? Because she's kind of got that covered later in the year. So we're just focusing, strategic priority. My business is in sort of reverse position. I did a lot of reach and nurture last year, up until maybe second half of the year. This is not an exact science, I can't remember. But at some point in the second half of the year, I really shifted into a nurture and conversion space. I have a really beautiful audience. It's warm. It's big enough for a one-on-one practice. And I had also created a lot of efficiencies behind the scenes last year so that I could open up more space, meaning I can serve more clients at once now because I did some of those efficiencies behind the scenes. And because I practiced and practiced. I did practice, but what's the word? Experimented. There we go. Because I experimented with my workload a lot last year and really pushed my boundaries around how many people can I onboard at once, how many people feels good to me if I have these other things sort of operating better and not needing me. And so all that is to say, I'm in a space where I'm not, from a networking standpoint, I'm not going to other people's events right now. I'm not casting a wide net right now. I am spending my time and energy from a networking perspective on continuing to nurture and convert my audience, which is my real connections. If you haven't been, please join us, shameless plug, to really nurture that audience, and it will continue to grow. But my focus is on nurture and conversions because I just have a lot of people that even last year said, okay, great, let's talk in the new year. I'm going to be looking for a coach, right? And so my focal point, it doesn't mean I'm not caring about my traffic, but it's just not my number one concern. My number one concern or my number one priority, strategic priority in my business is just to keep moving those conversions because I have the space and the spots for them to go into, and I have the warm audience. So that's just the next obvious step, right? And so I'm going to apply my networking strategy to that high level strategy, to that strategic priority to serve me. So specifically, one, I said I'm not going to other events right now. I've also really decreased and at some point phased out on and off the number of one-on-one coffee chats that I have, right? And I want to just be really clear, like that's a really important execution sort of element that you can just remember yourself, you can remind yourself, you can turn that on and off. You can be more available for more coffee chats. Beginning of last year, I was all about the coffee chats. That was serving my business so well, and it was growing my networking event. It was growing my pipeline of leads. It was growing my generally my audience. That was really serving me. And so I was opening up more coffee chats last year. And this year I'm really like 0 to a few, right? I will shift that again over time. That does not have to be a rigid thing, but right now that's not the priority, right? What's the other thing? Oh, and I also stopped doing speaking events, or I paused my speaking events. Again, because I just have other pieces of things that I'm working on behind the scenes that I need to focus on as well. And so from that strategic priority, my networking strategy supports that strategic priority. And that just helps me all day, every day know like where to spend my time and where to kind of go, yeah, I'll do that again some other time. Right? Coffee chats being a great example. The way that I follow up with people in my networking events is different now. Instead of offering them a coffee chat, I make sure that I spend more time following up with them individually, right? And so same general idea of using the networking strategy, but I'm just executing it differently based on my business's strategic priority for this quarter. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Let me know in the chat if this is making sense. And then we're going to get down to the last couple here. Okay, okay, great, thank you. Getting in the right rooms with the right people. This one's a hard one to talk generally to everyone, right? I think if we just think about like, what do you get out of networking events besides clients? Right? But let's use the, oh, let me let her in too. But let's use the clients example first, right? If everybody wants clients, right? All the time, everybody wants clients. Even when I'm full, I want to make sure I've got clients in my pipeline for later, right? But even when you're looking at clients, so if you're looking at, am I in the right room? Am I talking to the right people? So number one is, could they be a potential client, right? You know who your audience is, right? If you serve, children over, I don't know why, we probably don't serve children. If you serve parents of young children, then if you're going to networking events where some people of like, I'm going to just say like mid-20s people who are single, you're probably not going to find clients, right? Okay, as one example, hang on, I've got one more person to let in. But that's just one sort of lens to look at, right? So if we're looking at a networking event, or we're looking at, I'm going to just use these two examples. One, looking at a networking event and deciding whether or not it's right for you. Or two, looking at a person in front of you and deciding whether it's worthy of your time and an efficient use of your time to deepen that relationship via a coffee chat or something else, right? These are the lenses we want to look at. Are they a potential client? Now or later, right? That's one. Are they somebody who could refer business to me? Did they get what I said when I explained what I do? And are they in rooms with my ideal clients? Or might they know people that are my ideal clients? That's another lens to look at. So that might, so I'll give you a great example. As a one-on-one business coach, one of the things that I do that other business coaches don't do, this isn't the only thing that I do, but one of the things that I really like is helping people through pivots and like transitions in their businesses. And a lot of business coaches are like, yeah, get your shit together first and then come talk to me, right? That's okay. I just like the transition. I was a change management consultant for many years. I love change. To me, that's like why I love behavior change and human psychology and the mindset behind things. I love it, right? And so what is a really good referral partner for me are people who do like copywriting and website development and branding, because a lot of those people come to work with a web designer, copywriter, or a branding person when they have when they've realized they're going through a pivot and they need to make a change, or whether they're like, oh my God, like a lot of times my copywriter friends will be like, can you please talk to this person? Or my web designer colleagues will be like, can you please talk to this person because they are not ready for me, They actually, like, in this conversation are realizing, holy hell, I'm making a change in my business and I need to get my vision clear before I move on. And so we are great referral partners to each other, because guess what? When they finish the process with me and they know what their clear vision is, they're going to need to update their website. They're going to need to update their copy, whatever, right? And so as an example, is this a good person who could be a client? Is this a person who could be a good client referral partner for me? Are they in those rooms? Do they work with those people? Is there a nice sort of partnership like that? So if you aren't aware of who would be a good referral for you, that's a really, really good homework assignment for you. And then, are they good collaborators, right? Like, I might partner with a business coach who serves slightly different audience than I do, right? That could be a collaboration where we both come to the table with different expertise, but serve a similar kind of setup. And then colleagues, right? Again, back to the whole, like, what's the purpose that I'm doing here? Why am I here? What am I doing? Am I in the right room with the right people? What is it, the season in your business that you need? What is the season in your business that you're in? Maybe you are, like, really feeling alone in your work, and you realize, like, when I started my business, I was the only person I knew that was running a small business. All my friends were like, that's awesome, we don't get it. Like, so supportive, could not help me, right? Like, other than, like, you go, right? And so it was very important to me in those first couple of years, and it has been important to me. It has actually been a priority for me over the years, different times, where I'll be like, you know what, I just need to I need to add some new quality colleagues to my network, because I miss having a peer level conversation of somebody who gets what this unique experience is and can help me, just from a colleague perspective through the trials and tribulations, and that we can support each other, right? So those are all good reasons and all good results that we can get from networking. And so again, when we're talking about, am I in the right room with the right people? Am I going to go to this networking event or follow up with this particular person? Looking at it from those four lenses: clients, collaborations, referrals, and colleagues. And again, making sure that lines up with your current business priority. That hopefully will help you kind of go yes to this, no to this. And then keep a note, like, come back to it when your season shifts, right? There will be different groups and different people that you might want to reach out to later. That's all good. Doesn't all have to happen now. And if you think it does, that's exactly what's going to drain you. We cannot, should not, will not do it all right now. Okay. I'm going to go through these last two really fast, because you probably already know this. But again, just to also remind you, like, there's no secret. And where your work is, hopefully, as we've gone through these pieces today, you can see, like, where your work is and where your focus is, and where you're like, oh yeah, I got that. Okay, good. Let that go. You've got it. Move on to the next piece, the piece where your work is. And that is around how you talk about what you do and how you show up around that and own it. So that can be just the words that you use. That's, do you know your audience and their problems, and can you articulate that? Do you know and can you articulate the results that you help your clients get and the results that they're looking for? And then why you? Why are you the right person for them, right? So if we're looking at how do we make it work better for us, like, I also think that, like, this is something that most people think they're always working on. And so I just really want to normalize that. Like, we do kind of shift and evolve our, pitch or our, LinkedIn bio description over time. Like that, I shift mine like maybe once a quarter for different reasons. It doesn't mean I don't know how to talk about what I do, but, like, different things might want to highlight different things at different times. And so I think just kind of like we're always going to be refining our marketing and our sales process, and not to say that, like, you have to always be working on it and solving a problem, but, like, we're just always iterating and refining. Nothing is stagnant. And knowing which piece needs to be refined now and which piece does not is the magic and the like 80-20 principle. But reminding you that if it doesn't feel like it's working very well, like, are you getting referrals that actually suit you? If not, that might be one space to go back and look at. How am I talking about it? Do I need to update it? How can I talk about it and kind of make sure that when I do, it, like, if you get a bad referral, that's the greatest piece of advice, a piece of data that you could ever get, to be like, okay, this person met me and they sent me this. I asked for an apple and they sent me an orange. I wonder why they thought orange. Let me think about that, right? And yes, other people can always misunderstand, and like, you don't have to be perfect, but why did they send me an orange? And how do I let people know, oh, you know what? I might look like a fruit person. So let me just let them know that I don't work, I don't know, I'm taking this metaphor too far, but like, let me let them know that I don't work with oranges and I like to work with apples, right? Maybe I add that into my description so that people go, oh, I get it. You're an apple chick, right? So how you talk about what you do is part of your strategy. So how you talk about it, and then how you show up around that, right? And this goes back to the very beginning. We were talking a lot about mindset around how we approach these conversations and what we bring there. And so when you're feeling anything other than not perfect, but like confidence and clear and like, yeah, I'm this person and this is what I do and I got it and these are my people and this is what I love to help them create, the results I love to help them create, and this is why I'm so good at what I do, or this is why I'm the right person for my people. When we don't come from that perspective, when we don't feel grounded and confident, there's the mind, now you know where your work is. Now there's the mindset piece of, okay, I talked about apples, but they sent me oranges, probably because I just like was a little all over the place, right? Either in my words and or in my energy, right? And or in my just mindset and the way I was showing up. And so how can I work that? Like so much of this is mindset. Even though today's conversation is about strategy, I can't separate the two. And so I find that like either, not everyone, but most people I know who feel like they're struggling with like walking in that room, quote unquote, whether it's in person or virtual, and standing there and owning it, oftentimes we're either lacking confidence or we're feeling this, which is kind of similar, we're feeling this like proving energy of like, no, I really am fucking good at this, let me tell you why, right? And that is, there's no, I'm trying not to go down a rabbit hole. I want you to feel comfortable and confident, especially if you're a woman who was told not to stand out. Like, this is not that. I'm not trying to say that, right? We absolutely want to stand strong and confident, and that's literally what I'm suggesting. But when we don't, and or if we are struggling to feel more confident, a lot of times we'll swing the pendulum the other way and kind of come across as a little bit annoyingly confident instead of just like regular bold confident. And that is a fine line, and that's a whole conversation for another day. But again, I think when we come across as being desperate, I really need another client, can you go find me one? Like, that's not going to serve most relationships. Or let me just tell you why I'm so great, right? Like, that comes that proving energy versus like, hi, I'm this person and I freaking love what I do and this is what I do and these are the people I serve and this is why I'm so great, right? It's just a different vibe. And so back to just quick recap in terms of strategically how we can approach this. Number one, aligning to our top business priority, aligning our networking actions to that top business priority so that you can sort of say yes to this and no to that, being in the right rooms with the right people and assessing that over and over and over. That's like a constant thing, right? Constant assessing. Who am I going to follow up with? Who am I going to talk to? Who am I going to say yes to if they invite me to a coffee chat? And then how do I talk about what I do and how am I like showing up around that? How am I owning it? What's my mindset behind that? And then finally, and this is the piece that people were asking questions about, and I really want to talk about this as well, but I find it to be just pretty practical. So like, you might just jot these down. We can talk about this fairly quickly, which is treating it like a business strategy, like, which is all the things we just talked about. But treating it like it's a business strategy, treating it like it's an action that generates client results, because it does, and treating it that way both in your mindset and in how you execute that business strategy, how you execute going to meetings, how you decide who you're going to talk to. So a couple of examples. Number one, if you do not have a system in place, and I don't mean system like technology, although some people like to use CRMs, but I mean system in place like, I know that after every networking meeting, I have to-dos on my list to look at the whole list and make sure that I'm connected to the people that I want to. Then review that list for, is there anybody that I want to reach out to one-on-one from a client perspective? Is there anybody I want to reach out to from a collaborator perspective? Is there anybody, if that aligns to my business strategy, is there anybody that I want to reach out to from a client that would be a good client referral, right? They may not have said, oh, I totally know all your clients, Laura, but if they're web designers or copywriters, good chance I'm going to reach out to them if they seem aligned to the way that I like to do work, which means I'm going to go then research them a little bit, stalk them on LinkedIn, and check out who they are. So have a system, be organized. When you're on calls with people, this is all about how to treat it like a business strategy and show up that way. When you're on calls with people, and this links back a little bit to what we talked about last week with like leaning it, like ending up in the friend zone, like when you're on calls with people, and if you're like, okay, we have been on the call for 20 minutes now and we have 10 left and we've not talked about business, like your responsibility is to treat it like a business strategy and to turn that conversation back to the business, right? Ask them or say like, hey, I could talk to you all day and I really want to know more about what you do because I would love to be able to send clients to you. Tell me who I can keep an eye out for and I'll do the same, right? Like you can just be direct and say that and shift the conversation. Most people appreciate that because it removes the, oh crap, how do we get out of this friend zone conversation? And again, how can we just be both? I'm going to not go back down that because I think I beat that horse to death earlier today. And then prioritizing your time and boundaries, right? We are not going to have a coffee chat with everybody just because they're great, right? We are going to have a coffee chat with the people that make sense on this list for me to reach out to from a business standpoint, because I know my top business priority and I'm going to go after the people that serve that, at least the most directly right now, right? You never know where somebody's going to take you. I've definitely like had follow-ups with people that I thought would be great clients and they turned out to be fantastic colleagues instead, right? Or vice versa. Or I, reached out to a web designer in my head for the purpose of being good client referral partners and they hired me, right? I don't need to know, I don't need to control, but I do need to look at it from that lens of like, does this person serve me? And so I think where I want to get back to the follow-up questions and one, have a system for that, get organized. Like we are going to treat it like a business and we are going to have things that we're going to do and set up your like action items, like very simply about just like how the tasks work. But then I think the questions you guys were asking, let me know in the comments. I felt like the questions you were asking were more around like, how do we discern around like, okay, I've got this follow-up list of 25 people after this event. I'm not going to talk, you're telling me not to talk to all 25, like, so what, right? And again, I think a lot of that answer is going through that lens of the 4 types of people and like seeing one, which of those 4 is your top priority, and then going after the people that seem to fit that. And then if you don't know, if you're like, God, I really never thought about like who would be a good referral partner for me, or collaborators, right? Collaborations are, I could probably do a whole, maybe I will do a whole live on collaborations because I think they are wildly strategic and often executed in ways that are not strategic. Because if your audiences don't align enough, usually one person gets more benefit than the other. And so you really want to make sure that it fits both and that it serves both purposes. Yeah, I'm going to hold that because that could be a rabbit hole. But I just think, I think from a follow-up perspective, if we're going back, I just want to kind of go back, like from a follow-up perspective, who am I following up with? Do I know the kinds of people that I need to follow up with to accomplish my business priority, my top strategic priority? And then within that, do I know kind of who fits those buckets for me? Do I know my ideal client so I know if they're a client? Do I know people who are good referrals for me so that I know who to look for, right? Do I have a collaboration plan? Like that's also like been on and off my list of strategic priorities. Every year it's been different. Right now it is not on my priority list. And so when people have reached out to me for collaborations, like I've either said no or thank you, not yet. And I just know that already. I don't have to like decide when it comes to me. And I can always change my mind. If like Oprah calls, like, yeah, I'm probably going to like sidestep something else and go straight for Oprah. But other than that, like, so I can always change my mind. But I mostly have just made that decision in advance. And that serves my sanity. That saves my energy. That helps me trust myself that I made a good decision and helps me stay focused on my priority and helps me go reach out to the people that make the best bang for the buck right now. Okay, I see a couple of chat comments. Let me do this. Check the comments here and then I will wrap it up. My main challenge is in staying connected for the mid and the long term. Okay, great question. Okay, so one of the things that I like to do now, I have my own networking event, but you can steal it. So whether it's my event or another one that you go to regularly, one thing that I have highly encouraged people to do is when you meet someone, invite them to a place like Real Connections, shameless plug, but like, no, really, if Real Connections or some other event is a place that you're a regular at, and I do recommend being a regular somewhere, because it just, that alone, if you come to Real Connections and you are a regular, and I don't mean you have to come every single time, you will inevitably, naturally repeat seeing people and they will remember that you exist, right? And they will hear you talk about what you do again and they're like, oh yeah, I knew you were an apple person, but I didn't know you were also an orange person or whatever, right? Like that familiarity, like we all are busy. We all back to that very simple marketing, truth of like, we need to have multiple touch points, which I think is where you're going with this, is like, how do I stay in touch? You can keep having coffee chats with them. And I encourage you to do that when it serves your strategic priority. And that's like, if you want to have that conversation, I would love to have I can customize an intensive coaching program around just that alone, because I think this is such an efficient use of your time. So if you don't know your business priority and how to like link those, that would be a great thing to put an intensive around. But I think that when you're thinking about like, how do we just stay connected? One option is coffee chats, but you cannot have a coffee chat with everybody 4 times a year. Like you just can't, you just can't. And so one, we've got to be more strategic and more picky around that. But then 2, I think in the midterm and the long term, being a regular, and then feel free, my event or someone else's, like wherever you are a regular, start inviting people that you want to stay in touch with. Invite them there. That's been one of the most surprising gifts to me about my networking event, is that I realized as I diminished my one-on-one coffee chats, I would let people know like, hey, come there. I will do my best to put myself in a room with you, right? It just gives us an opportunity to stay in each other's orbits, even though we're not always having a one-on-one. And it really does work and serve to continue to build relationships. It also helps, frankly, like with the algorithm, like they will keep showing up on my LinkedIn more because I've found one thing and I stayed put, and then I keep getting it. And so there's other ways, like again, sending them your LinkedIn or your Instagram or whatever your profiles are, platforms are, sending them action, come to my events, like come to this place where I'm a regular, like that's another easy way to kind of accomplish that without having to follow up on freaking coffee chats all the time. And I'm a huge fan of coffee chats. Coffee chats have built my freaking business. Like I am not trying to crap on coffee chats, but everybody overdoes it, including me. And that's one way we can get around it. Okay, I see 2 more questions. How do you get clarity on what you're looking for if you're getting apples instead of oranges? Yeah, I think I think it's a little bit of both. Like, I said apples. Is there a way I could better say apples? Or I didn't say oranges, but I got oranges. Is there a way I could somehow, like, in my description, talk about how I don't help oranges, right? And it's too hard to do that too generally, but like, I think it's more like back to that, like, when you don't know stuff, sometimes it's like, well, I don't know what I want, but I know I want it to be kind of like this, right? And I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want this, right? And you can kind of start to get a little more clarity when it's like, well, I do want this and I don't want that, right? So same with the apples, oranges. I would be like, what is it that I said that I probably need to highlight more that feels more apple-y? And then what did I say that got to the orange planet? And how can I let them know that I'm not an orange person? I hope that helps and that this metaphor is dead, like I'm taking it way too far. Okay, one more question. Would you recommend sharing your, Would you recommend sharing your coffee chat link specifically over offering it to the chat spreadsheet so that you have more control over who books with you? Yes. Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Yeah. I mean, there's some events where they'll ask you to share it, and I think that's helpful, but then I encourage you to have really good boundaries around, I love Calendly for this, really good, like, just update the back end so that it only books one per week or one per day or one per whatever, like, block off your calendar, do not have your whole calendar available, whatever your boundaries are, let that hold your boundaries too. But generally speaking, I think there are times and places for that, but usually that just makes you too open and too available. And we want to be today's conversation is about being strategic, which includes being efficient, which then gets you effective. And so I think yes, yes is my answer. I do think having your link kind of as an invite only is helpful. It also puts you in a position of having to say no, and sometimes that's hard and awkward, but you get more used to it. Coffee chats for VIPs only. Yeah. Thank you. This was helpful. I'm so glad. Thank you so much, everybody. Awesome. Okay. We do not have any more lives this month. We will have, I think, 2 next month, but I haven't chosen the topics or set it up yet for you to sign up. So I will share that out with my email list, share that out with LinkedIn probably in the next week or 2. Meanwhile, if you are looking for a coach, if you are like, awesome, this is great, how in the world do I apply this to my business? I'd love to chat with you. You can just book a free consult and we can talk about, I've got spots open in March and April. And I'd love to talk to you about working together. And I will see you soon.
Recording stopped.